Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we are going to recap Mikey Musumeci versus One FC. We are going to recap Fight to Win. We are going to recap Finishers 18 GP and preview the IBJJF 2023 European Championships. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, joined with co-host
Miranda.
Hey, Miranda.
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Making a better effort this year to talk a little slower because 5 years in a row I've got feedback that I talk too fast. So gonna start off the year with our third show.
You are from the northern half of the United States.
Yeah, I tend to miss the space bar when speaking. So, been a fun week. We had some good matches this week. I didn't give Mikey's opponent name because that is something that you're going to go. So we're gonna recap one of the grossest matches of the year so far.
Well, it's still early this year, so we haven't seen any. We haven't seen any
it's going to get
a horrific break. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see one of those this year.
Yeah, we'll see something.
It's early in the year, so we'll recap that here in a minute. Before we get into that, let's talk about a little bit of news. Again, pretty quiet week. Flograppling finally released their awards, and we kind of went. I could see that male grappler of the year, Gordon Ryan. We removed him from contention because it was kind of like, I mean, obviously, but like who else? But it is reasonable with what he accomplished this year, being the first person to win both the super fight and a division, first person to ever enter and do that.
Is he doing, like, I saw something online, is he doing bodybuilding this year?
Is he really?
Yeah, he was doing like poses and shit.
Good for him, man.
Because like his
that's
what his
bored.
girl. I mean, that's what his girl does.
Yeah,
so.
Nat was a former bodybuilder.
Yeah, I think he's doing the Arnold this year. That's what it sounded like from the post. But like,
doing the Arnold because he always does the Arnold for the grappling industry stuff.
I don't know. All I know is, and I don't even subscribe to him on Instagram. Like, I just every once in a while creep on him like an ex-boyfriend. But are we going there, Arnold?
I thought we decided that we were going to do that.
I
have decided I'm going to the Arnold for like 4 years in a row and never gone because we're Maryland-based.
I think we can. I mean,
Ohio's like an 8-hour drive.
We can drive it. We can fly it. It doesn't really matter. We could drive or
fly it. So we're going to beat the Arnold if he's there.
Well, I think
he wins. So
from what I read, from what I read, it looked like he was actually doing the bodybuilding competition portion. Which
good for you, man.
I mean, if that makes him happy, go right ahead.
Yeah, man. You're bored of grappling, but that's how you get taken out as a king. You go into other stuff. You go into acting, or you go into some other sport, and guys that aren't doing anything else. Come and find you. So, but again, he wins Grappler of the Year.
It is March 2nd through 5th. Mark your calendars.
Hell yeah,
Columbus, Ohio. Columbus is
also probably going to One FC in Denver.
Dude, I saw that.
I'm gonna buy tickets.
I debated that.
Hopefully, I'm buying tickets like tonight because the flights are not that bad.
How much are the tickets?
Tickets are like $70.
Oh, really?
And flights are like $100.
Oh, that's not bad.
Right?
When is that?
Rachel's
that's
family's
May?
out there. Yeah, May. It's like my birthday.
Maybe.
So
I have to look at the schedule.
Moving on to female grappler of the year, Fionn Davies.
Yeah.
We worlds, ADCC and IBJJF black belt. You can't make a stronger argument. We talked about it, I think 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
On the show, that was our pick for female grappler of the year. Again, those accolades alone, you would be hard pressed unless, again, you did that in the plus 60 kilogram division. You know, it's hard. You are hard pressed to find a more stacked year. Fionn wins for 2022. No discussion there for that. Best submission of the year. Heisem Rita versus Cyborg Abreu. Again, that's what we thought too. It was just wild. You can call it a fluke or not, but man, that arena at ADCC did not pop louder than when Heisem hit that the entire weekend. Absolutely crazy. What other criteria did they have?
What do you mean?
What other criteria did Flo have?
Match of the year was Cade versus PJ.
Their second match at the World Championships. Yeah. Again, PJ takes out JT, and then Cade takes out PJ by sub. Wild shit. Go back and watch the first match. Go back and watch the second match. Deservedly the best match of the year. I think that was on everyone's list, and it was going and rewatching it again. After the first 3 minutes, you're like, oh yeah, I get why this was one of the wildest matches that happened of the year.
Yeah. And then also a breakout performance was Bordoni.
That was one that was kind of weird, but you think you make a strong argument. He did kind of break out by winning trials in 21 because he won East Coast trials.
Yeah, he did.
But again, your first ADCC as a trials winner going in and winning it is pretty impressive, although he was kind of a guy that was very much on our radar in 2021. And I think he was a lot of people's favorite going into that division at 88 kilograms anyway. So I'm not sure I agree with that one, but dude had a phenomenal year, and definitely winning your first major world title like that puts you on that short list. So
well, it also feeds really well into them matching Bordoni versus Marino.
Oh yeah, that's new. So that's Flograppling Awards. They did a nice award show.
So they did a nice Flograppling did a nice like documentary regarding Bordoni, which I mean,
I haven't seen it yet.
I don't think it's out yet, but
okay.
I feel like
they had a trailer for it.
I feel like they may have kind of done this
hedged the bets a little bit
for commercial reasons.
The announcement of the co-main of Giancarlo Bordoni versus Pedro Marinho for who's number one is actually like a really interesting matchup because Marinho is tricky in a lot of ways, and I'm very curious. He is kind of similar to Elder Cruz in a couple of ways, and we've seen Bordoni have some really, really close matches with Elder. I'm kind of curious to see how Marinho does. Again, this is fun matchmaking. Both guys are at the top of their division.
And Marinho is
very
a very dynamic person. Like he has dynamic matches, so it'll be interesting because Bordoni.
He can scramble, but he kind of wants to slow you down. Kind of want to do what Gordon does. Yeah. And so I think it hopefully should showcase kind of the best of both guys, where it's Marinho trying to kind of crush through and Bordoni trying to like impose and control. So I think it could make for a really interesting style matchup. I'm hyped for the matchup. That'll be awesome. That's in
February 25th in Costa Mesa, California.
So that's just a little over a month away at this point. That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to diving into that matchup more because that's a great co-main. Other news we got this week?
The ladies GP, they announced at least
for
two
IBJJF?
names for it. Yeah, for IBJJF. It's in Austin on March 3rd, and they announced Baby Vieira.
Yeah.
And
Anna Carolina Vieira and Justice Sintra as well was announced for that. So that's a really good lineup for that. That's really good 2 additional names into that bracket.
Yeah, it's ladies heavyweight.
Mm-hmm. But usually for the GPs for the women, they kind of heavyweight for the women.
Yeah, they do lightweight or they do
lot.
They do lightweight or they do heavyweight.
Yeah, but usually for the women, they're pretty wide with the margin. For the men, they're pretty wide with the margins too for weight class. But I appreciate that with the GP that you don't just get your super ultra heavy people. You get your like lightweight and up or middleweight and up.
Yeah.
So it should be good. That bracket is shaping up to be very exciting. Excited to preview that coming up. And then Gary Tonin also had a fight on ONE FC.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about it in the recap section of ONE FC because we are just talking about grappling.
But it was kind of grappling because it was a rolling Kimura.
Yeah, it was a really neat like.
It was like
first round.
It was like it was like the one they teach you how to roll through, but not really.
But he like comes to top on it.
Yeah, I don't know how
it was a wild.
He like bounced off the cage at one. It was.
He bounced off the cage, rolled through, landed in like a modified mounted position.
Yeah,
and then finished like a topside standing Kimura over him.
Yeah.
And you went like if anyone was gonna finish yourself like that, it's Tonin. Like Tonin or like even a guy like Wagner. But Tonin's so dynamic with like where and how he will control you and let you move around to kind of get in a position to submit you. Again, a pretty hallmark Gary Tonin performance.
Yeah.
Then gave one of the weirdest post fights in a while, allegedly.
He's an interesting individual.
Interesting dude, definitely. And then other than that, I think any other news? Is that it?
I think that's it.
All right,
maybe something else will come up as we go.
As it always does on this show, we remember.
Yeah, we're like, oh.
Or the podcast finishes, and then 15 minutes later, giant news drops, as is tradition because we do the show typically Monday night or Sunday night.
Yeah, and like Monday. Yeah, and like as soon as we're done, they'll announce some kind of crazy lineup.
Monday evening, a lot. You'd be surprised how often major shit drops on like Tuesday morning or like Monday night late at night.
Yeah.
So hopefully that doesn't happen, but starting off the year right. So let's move into the recap of ONE FC, Mikey Musumeci versus Miranda. Give me the name here.
Okay, it's Gantimer Byerenden.
You said that way differently on the pre-show. I'm gonna call him Byerenden.
Byerenden.
But I'm trying
my best.
We heard his name, we listened to his name, and then I phonically could not get there.
Yeah, and then I tried to write it down phonically, and it didn't work.
Yeah. So Mikey Musumeci for about.
Why don't we call him Gantimer? Because that's an easy one.
Gantimer.
Okay.
Mikey Musumeci destroyed Gantimer's leg for about 6 6+ minutes of this match, a 10-minute match.
Did you see the video? There's a video from his MMA school, the guy that Gantimer goes to, where they have him laying in bed with a cast all the way up to his,
I saw the image.
Hip.
I didn't see the video.
There's a video, and it goes all the way up to his hip.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So Mikey Musumeci basically hit heel hook, another heel hook,
he did like
a knee bar, an
he
inside
did
knee bar, an outside knee bar, a variation of that from the saddle, from the 50-50, from like he
literally ran through every submission that you can do on someone's leg, while dude's leg just tore to pieces.
So I got a text from might have been the Grappling Rewind folks.
It was our chat.
It was somebody that said,
I was like, hey, Mikey's going up in 2 matches.
I didn't realize that it was live.
I like hit that, and then all of a sudden, and it was Josh.
Yeah.
Josh goes, this is worse than the meows.
It was this guy's legs worse than the meows. And I went, oh, this is gonna be, because when Josh, a guy that's been around for a long time, and like our bar for bad leg injuries is like meow, because we've seen. There's a GIF, I gotta find it somewhere, old school Imager GIF compilation of basically every time the meows have had their knee torn apart, but not tapped.
Yeah.
And
sometimes they just have a look on their face, like they're like, what the fuck?
Well, there's a Gary Tonin one from like 2014 or 16. And there's an Eddie Cummings one where it's like, it's a toe hold, and you just, you watch the leg like give.
Yeah.
And then you watch like him limp off the mat after and didn't tap to it, and you're like, dude, he broke your shit. And we've all seen that compilation.
And he recently came out with the I shouldn't have done.
That was interesting. Yeah, Paulo came out with basically like, I probably should have tapped earlier stuff because now I'm like 30 and all of my shit is fucked and it hurts really bad.
Yeah.
This is the same situation. And so Mikey, for about 6 minutes, just destroys Gantimer's leg. And Gantimer, to his credit, like consistently does open up and makes. He's not doing the thing I hate the most, which is a guy just watches his shit break.
No,
and then uses the break to escape.
Yeah,
he's like actively opening the legs.
He's actively trying to get out the entire time.
He's pummeling the hips. He's doing good stuff to free the knee line. And when Mikey's into something, as it's turning and kind of popping, Gantimer's doing a great job, like eliminating control and forcing Mikey to readjust. This wasn't like a static position, kind of like Vinny and Craig.
Yeah.
Where it's like Vinny's just kind of letting his shit break to like get out.
I mean, they're moving around, but his leg is definitely moving in directions it shouldn't go.
His knee is inverted at one point.
Yeah, and you're looking at muscles go directions that they shouldn't be in. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting.
It was super gross. And one of my favorite things that came out of this was Damian Anderson's Instagram. There's a video of those guys from B Team watching it.
Really?
And like yelling over it as it like happens.
Yeah.
That's just bad. Even so, you guys, the B Team is probably one of the best leg locking gyms in the world.
Yeah.
And when those guys are going, about how gross something is, that should give you context for this match.
Vitor Shaolin, the ref, was like looking at it. Like he had a facial expression like, what the
it's super gross. Yeah. So Mikey wins. Mikey eventually towards the end of the match kind of goes for the back. He kind of controls. He goes for a calf slicer, and then
he goes for a calf slicer and says he lets it go because he is like fucking dude's knee up that much.
Yeah. It's gross.
Yeah.
And so it brought up an interesting conversation. So that's the match. It's very one-sided for Musumeci. Again, very impressed with Musumeci. Very clear, dominant win performance. It made us kind of question, and I think it was kind of a question that came through the community of, so One FC is primarily a mixed martial arts organization, MMA. They do other striking sports.
Yeah, they do like
They've
Muay Thai.
They've moved into grappling in mixed martial arts and in like striking sports. Referees not infrequently step in and stop the bout. If there's punches, basically an athlete can't defend themselves, they see an athlete is visibly injured and like it is affecting their ability to continue. In grappling, that is not as much of a thing.
No, because normally when your shit breaks, you scream and the match is over.
It's over. But when that doesn't happen, it gets to an interesting thing of, does the referee, I think you and I are in the same camp here, I think. When does a referee step in? And at the local level, I think it's different. I think the discussion here is in a professional match where it's like potentially 50,000 is on the line if you put up an impressive performance here. One FC has been very generous with the bonuses for grappling.
whatever your your pay is just to have to win the match.
Yeah, and from what we've heard, it's pretty good money to go in and have these matches, which I appreciate. Grapplers
and I'm sure
they're
paying these guys to go against Mikey.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I would make them pay me to go against Mikey.
Bro.
If I was in that level, I would make them pay me. Because
now Mike wants to go, continues to want to go against Demetrius Johnson. Demetrius is like, I'll do it, but he was on commentary for this match. He's like, I'm gonna fucking tap though, and I appreciate that from DJ. I would actually be curious to see that match. I don't think it's close, but it would be. Demetrius Johnson is a very thoughtful grappler and fighter, and so he would go in with a very, very good game plan.
He did that fun arm bar. I'm trying to think.
The mighty whiz bar he called it. Versus Ray Borg. At in the end of a 5th round fight, he was dominating. He was like, I'm gonna cap it off with an arm bar.
I was somewhere in DC drinking when that happened, and I was watching it.
I mean, he's who I'm gonna get tickets to go watch in Denver.
Oh, is that
Demetrius Johnson versus Maras 3? So that should be fun. So, but that being said, at what point does a referee step in? Like his leg, Ganymer's leg is destroyed.
Yeah,
but he's not stopping, and he's continuing to work and do something.
Not screaming in pain.
No.
1. Number 2, you're in an organization that allows you to soccer kick to the head.
Yeah.
And where else can you do that?
Ryzen.
Yeah, that's
and a couple of other promotions, but really it's rare.
Yeah.
I just think that One FC actually took out soccer kicks a while ago.
No, they allow you to. I'm pretty sure they announced that at some point while I was watching it, because I was watching it.
Knees to the head, I think, is allowed. I think soccer kicks got removed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they had a thing a couple years ago, I think, where they took out soccer kicks. The referee would have to call for when it was legal, and then they took it out. Because they're a cage, whereas Ryzen's a ring, so you can't get trapped between the ring.
Oh, so they can't just repeatedly soccer kick you
on the cage anymon because that was kind of like. Urgh. But again,
so you can't.
It's combat sports.
You can't do American History X style.
You cannot do that anymore in Shogun stomps. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Just sad.
So
sad
it was an interesting thing to watch when it happened. But this match, so when does the referee step in? And we are both in the camp, in a professional match.
When you're making that kind of money.
It also at the top end, you're in a world title match for ONE FC for grappling. That is a big deal, and those are the stakes. ADCC, a guy breaks his leg in half. You want to keep going? ADCC's like, all right, man, keep going.
Yeah.
Why should one be any different? Then in grappling, you get to choose the amount of damage that you take.
Yeah, I think
especially at this top level.
At that level,
and it's just an interesting kind of contrast: striking versus grappling. I think in striking, there's an inability to defend yourself because your brain's getting rattled.
Well, the other issue with striking is if you get your leg broken in the same way, you don't have the ability to stand. When you don't have the ability to stand, then that becomes a bigger issue.
And it ends the fight.
Yeah, because you have, was it Chandler at Bellator in New York City that broke his own ankle or something like that?
It was like a
I was physically there at that match.
He had drop foot, and that was he twisted his ankle, and it
did something weird.
Did something, but his foot, he had drop foot. He couldn't lift his foot up and fight, and couldn't put weight on the foot. That was versus
in
Brett
there, you don't really have. I mean, you can't sit your butt and then fight.
But it's just interesting in grappling. It's it is so accepted in striking, whereas in grappling, even we're kind of making the argument against it. It is an interesting contrast for an organization like ONE that has both striking.
But
and
a lot
grappling.
of times in striking, they also hide it. If they break something, they're hiding it.
Yeah,
because they break their hands all the time.
Yeah, but again, it was famously stopped. Frank Mir versus Tim Silva. Herb Dean stopped the fight when Frank Mir broke Silva's forearm.
Yeah,
there is precedent for it. It is just interesting that we kind of as grapplers on the professional side go, yeah, man, he wants to let it break and keep going. That's kind of his prerogative. Yeah. He's allowed to do that.
Well, then what I also mentioned is IBJJF used to be like that. They used to let you break.
Jacare, you brought up in our pre-show Tammy versus Nicolini.
Yeah.
It's
her arm breaks, and then you watch it break.
They've changed the rules on that since I think it was the Gaudio versus Homolo. They changed the rules now. Basically, if a ref visibly sees something break, they're allowed to stop it now, which I think is
and you're not making money there. I mean,
no,
because
I do appreciate in tournaments like that where it's like an amateur tournament like IBJJF.
They're not doing New York Pro. Are they doing New York Pro anymore or any kind of pro?
They haven't done any events in New York in a couple of years.
Well, and I know that's the blood testing thing, but they're not doing pro events anymore where you get paid to win.
They do the GP, and you get some money for Worlds.
But they don't do an entire.
They do very, very few paid events that are not invitational events, and even those are few
for the people
between.
not that don't know what we're talking about, they used to do an event called New York Pro.
Yeah.
You had to have so many points to go into New York Pro, and then you got a certain amount of money to win it. And it wasn't a lot. It was like $5,000 or something like that. But it was
for some division. There was also you got paid out for other placements too.
Yeah, you got played out for first, second, third.
Yeah.
And it was all belts. Well, maybe not white belt, but it was like blue,
purple, brown, black.
Yeah.
It was like one of the only paid tournaments they did for years and years and years. And guys would go up to New York Pro, win somebody in New York Pro, and then kind of come back. But IBJJF doesn't do a lot of paid events, so for them that makes sense. In an amateur context, like, yeah, man, you're an amateur. I watched it break. You don't get to continue to go. But for a professional bout, it's interesting. So that was kind of my takeaways for 1FC. Miranda, do you have any other kind of either technical takeaways, tactical takeaways, or like thoughts on it?
No, it was interesting.
It kind of went how we thought it was going to go.
Yeah, we kind of I don't think I expected his leg to break in the ways that it did. It was interesting. It was interesting.
I watched this with Rachel, and we were both like, "Oh," and Rachel has a medical background.
Yeah.
And we were both going like, "Oh, geez, I couldn't look away, but I wanted to," and it was gross. So that wins right now for the grossest match of 2023. But again, props to Musumeci for getting it done. In Musumeci's post-fight interview, he talked about, and Dragon actually brought it up in the post-fight, where basically in the pre-fight he had talked about sometimes he gets kind of fixated on single techniques.
Yeah.
And Dragon asked him like, "Hey, did you get fixated on the leg locks and were unwilling to go to anything else?" And Mikey was like, "No, man, it just kept breaking and popping, and so I was like, that was successful, so I just kind of continued to do that." And I thought that was really interesting.
I think I even got so sidetracked by watching it that I didn't hear if they were like screaming like they normally like
catch. They would do it occasionally. The referee would would yell catch occasionally on stuff. And I honestly thought the catch calls were pretty good for this match.
Yeah.
It was just interesting that Mikey only about 8 minutes into a 10-minute match adjusted the tactics to start going for the choke. Once it was very clear that he had done the damage that he was able to do to the leg. Ganymer was unwilling to tap.
Yeah.
And so you have to go for a choke at that point. And again, takes a clear decision.
Yeah.
But it was tactically very interesting that Mikey kind of stayed in the legs that long, very clearly won in that avenue, did the damage that he was able to do, and then moved on to the choke. I think tactically, that's the right decision, and I think he should have stayed on the legs as long as he did, especially just to make sure, you've ridden out the success you can have on those joints as much as you are able to. You're not going to let go of something that you're having success with if, Ganymer is continually having to defend it. Why would you let go of those submissions?
True.
So that's 1FC. It was fun. Again, on Prime. I wish they'd let me have VPN still, but I love the format. It's always professional. It feels great. I watched a couple of other matches on the card because I was like, I'm on anyway. I'll watch a couple other matches. They were great other matches. Again, love covering 1FC. Very happy that they are paying Mikey Musumeci money to put on interesting technical displays. I hope we see the match with Demetrius Johnson.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Moving on. Let's move on to... Where do you want to go here?
Fight to win.
Want to do fight to win or want to do finishers first?
Let's do fight to win.
Okay.
I don't know why. But
so main event fight to win 217. We had Caesar... can you be his last name here?
Mayahara,
I think.
Mayahara.
Versus Alexandre Pimentel. Pimentel wins this by a decision. It was definitely a close match. It was really Alexandre trying to pass. It was a gi match, which I love. The fight to win has the gi matches as the main event for the title. Really him trying to pass, kind of a lasso spider guard combination,
and then sitting on a leg lock.
And then towards the end, because fight to win judges on submission attempts is their main criteria, sits for a leg lock, so he puts good forward pressure.
He's a 5th degree black belt.
Dude, I saw when he walked out. I looked at the stripes. I was like, dude,
he's a
5th
degree,
stripes.
and the other guy's a 3rd degree.
Yeah, I love that fight to win showcases like. I'm not call the older talent, but the seasoned talent and gives guys at that level.
This was their Masters welterweight gi championship match. So it was a good match. It was him trying to pass, unable to pass, and jumping on a leg.
Yeah,
and I mean,
it's how you do it.
All else fails, go after the legs.
Yeah, it was again tactically how you do it. He takes the title there. There
was also another match prior to that. It was a no-gi match. and it was a 3rd-degree black belt versus I don't know. I was trying to figure out what the other guy's black belt level was, but it was no
But
use,
there's
so
no
I couldn't-
there's no belts.
I
so
don't.
you can't
I don't.
see.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
I just love that Fight to Win.
And that was fun because that was an older black belt match. They were both like older gentlemen.
I love that Fight to Win does that though, because a lot of people I've talked to, especially older black belts, talk about being very willing to take like a Fight to Win match, like a one-off. Like they don't want to enter a big tournament because it's like, hey man, I've been a black belt for 20 years.
You also don't want to go against a 17-year-old.
Right. I've been a black belt for 20 years. I've got enough gas in me to train to get one really good match.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a whole tournament of people, but I'll go and showcase my skills to my students and my association and like, go compete for myself. I love that Fight to Win gets those guys on the stage, and it's awesome to see a guy that's been doing the sport for 30 years and a black belt for 20 plus years almost.
And plus they bring their entire school out.
I love it though. I love that Seth makes an effort to do that and showcase those guys in the main event slots for the welterweight titles, for the Masters Plus titles. Like, I love that they have that organization. I would love to see more promotional work for the titles. Like, I would love a big like champions list for Fight to Win. I would love to see that now they move to Fight TV. I would love to see some more of that and kind of build out the league that Fight to Win kind of runs on the back end. I would love to see that pushed to the forefront now with their new viewership deal with Fight TV. Again, Fight to Win is now on Fight TV. You can get Fight Plus. I think it's like $50.
It's like $50 a year.
Grapple Fest, Subversive, Fight to Win are the 3 kind of major organizations that we cover on Fight TV. $50.
And Fight Circus is there.
And Fight Circus.
And it's hilarious.
You get some crazy MMA, and like you get the bare knuckle boxing cards like 30 days after if you don't want to buy the pay-per-view. There's honestly there's good enough content on Fight
pro
TV.
wrestling and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Pro wrestling, but
I every once in a while just for giggles, but I don't watch it enough to know anything.
So again, I'm really happy with it. And I'm happy that they, that Pimentel was able to take it and, showcase that level of, we still have guys that have been black belts for a long time showing it off. So let's move on to the recap of Finishers GP, Finishers 18, primarily a women's card, which I love. We had some male super fights and some male title fights, but the bracket, or the bracket was a women's
125.
Yeah, women's 125 bracket, and they broke it up into it was a round robin bracket, which I like. It did make it kind of hard for me to follow.
Yeah, unless you watched it or you knew what the format was, it was difficult to follow.
Yeah. Again, the matches were super fun, but that format.
So they did.
I always struggle personally with like following round robin. It's more of a hang up for me than an event organizer. It's just I struggle to remember how it runs.
Yeah, they just did both sides of the bracket. They did a round robin on both sides, and then whoever had the most points, because they got 3 points if you subbed them in regulation, and you got 1 point if you subbed them in overtime. Whoever had the most points then went to finals.
Yeah,
and thankfully we didn't have any weird situations where
you
had
to pony match in or finals or
like
this, or like make a determination, ride time victory.
And they also, for whatever reason, on this card, they took away the rule that said that if you're in a submission at the end of the match, that it would continue. Because that wound up...
I think that's only for super fights.
Well, that completely screwed a dude over in the super fight. Because one of the super fights, the guy, and I mean, they were kind of not going... They were kind of taking their time, like you do in EBI. Yeah. And then at the last second, he freaking grabbed something. And he had it, and they shut it down. And they said, well, that rule doesn't exist for this tournament.
You got to know your rules. I mean, and Finishers has done a good job, like, maintaining the EBI rules. If, it's not our favorite rule set, but they have done a good job, like, championing and, like, promoting that rule set and also making changes to that rule set where they see fit. And I was like, I appreciate that. As a competitor, you gotta know your rules. It's an important piece. So you want to talk about we have I think 5 title fights on this card, and we have the women's GP final. Where do you want to start here?
We'll do GP final.
Women's
first.
GP final. This was I think the match that we thought we were gonna get out of the GP.
Yeah, it definitely was, and it was Alex Enriquez, Atos Atlanta, and Grace Gundrum, who we haven't seen for a while.
About a year.
Yeah,
I think she's been gone for about a year. She's finishing school or just finished school.
I don't know.
I think she's in her last year. I talked to Zach when we went up for the Craig Jones seminar.
Okay.
I talked to Zach a little bit, and he
Zach.
talked about Zach Pasolini,
Yeah.
the guy that runs Finishers and
Yeah.
owns that organization and gym, and is Grace's coach.
Yeah.
Was talking about what she was doing. I think we talked and she was finishing. I don't want to misrepresent the conversation. I think he was talking about she was just finishing school, and then we would see her back. And this is this is us seeing her back. She looked good.
Yeah.
Alex Enriquez, she's been on our radar for a bit here, and we've talked about her for a bunch of different matches. I think we saw her at East Coast Trials. Was the first
second
big
place?
thing.
Yeah.
I think so.
No, because that was the first time I had seen her.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know who she was.
That was, I think, the first time we were able to cover her on the show. We'd seen her on some other stuff before, but that was the first match that showed us, like, oh, she is absolutely on that top upper echelon level for women at the weight class. So to see these two in the finals was not surprising at all. This went the full duration throughout the entire match. It was
15
really
minutes.
Enriquez looking to pass.
And Grace having a very impossible guard to pass.
Yeah, and that's really that's the dynamic for a lot of Gundrum's matches is that if you get lazy in your passing, Gundrum will murder you in the guard.
Yeah.
If you...
Or she'll take you back.
She'll get something going with you. And
yeah.
Enriquez had to deal with the arm bars a couple of times in good position, but Enriquez's passing is so tight and so pressured in that a lot of the guard players at the weight class tend to really struggle to make the space.
And this was a 125 bracket. Enriquez, I believe, is a little bit bigger. She's not super.
I think so.
She's like 35,
think
probably.
So, yeah.
So she probably cut because they do day before weigh-ins. So and it's remote. So you just send a picture of your scale.
Which I appreciate.
That's what I've always done before. And Grace is normally small. She's like a 115.
If that, I think she walks around close to that.
Yeah.
If not.
So there was a little bit of a size disparity.
It was a pretty. I think Enriquez is pretty much bigger. As I was going to say, is a bit bigger than Grace. And you can see that here.
Yeah, her and another girl, Nicole, in the bracket were definitely the two ones that definitely sit a lot higher than 25.
We know both them
and
locally.
Yeah, we know.
Well, not Enriquez, but we know Nicole.
We know Nicole, and she normally doesn't compete at 25. So.
Yeah. But for the GP, you're going to make the cut.
Yeah, you're going to make the cut.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But this goes to overtime. And again, a pretty close overtime as well.
Yeah.
And then Enriquez is able to take that.
Yeah, on ride time.
On ride time. Again, impressive performance. We've continued to see a lot from Alex Enriquez. And this is just another kind of feather in her cap for performances. Great to see her take it. Would love to have her on East Coast events more and we see her on the East Coast pretty frequently, flying up from Atlanta. But having her as the Finishers champion gets her here, hopefully even more frequently because Finishers does a great job of bringing their champions back to defend their belt.
As long as they have people to actually, defend it.
Yeah, there's that too.
But it's a 25, there's a lot of women at 25.
25 is I think, one of the best weight classes for women because
25, 35. They're both
it's just
pretty
that bell
solid.
curve. It's just the bell curve of
but
you get
there's
really good women there.
There's a big difference between 25 and 35. Because I've competed in both, and there's a big difference between 25 and 30. You wouldn't think it, but
you're in that bell curve for the women at that kind of because
35 is like all your 45ers and 50s coming down to 35, and 25.
Amanda Leve coming down to 35,
and 25 is like us 35 people that are like, fuck those people.
Yeah.
And we drop to
coming
25.
And then you also get women like Grace coming up.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey man, I'm not going to fight at 105. I'm going to 25.
Yeah.
So again, both spectrums. But again, I love those weight classes. I think they showcase some of the highest degree of talent in the sport. So it's awesome that Finishers ran a women's GP to showcase those. Where do you want to go next? We had 170 title men's, 170 title women's. We had a 105-pound title and 145-pound title.
Let's just start at the top and go down because if not, we're going to get off track at some point.
Okay.
So we started off at the 170 title. It was Ricky Penna from Berks County BJJ and 10th Planet versus Dylan Garofalo, who was a 10th Planet Long Island.
Yep.
There was a lot of 10th Planet Long Island people in the house.
Yeah, we had Shahgholi here as well. He's in one of the title fights. There were a few folks.
Yeah, there's a couple folks coming from far away too.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a good match.
And Dylan takes this one via ride time. Overall, it was...
a lot of hand fighting.
Yeah. Good positional work in the bottom for the most part. And guys, it was the match was, I think, a little tepid in the regulation. You saw like one pass throughout the entire match and a little bit of top position pressure work, but the match looked like both guys kind of working towards the overtime to secure position, which again in the format is It's a way to win, and guys have kind of figured that out, and that seemed sort of how this match was going to play out. So he takes the title, and
we move
now the
on,
champion.
And we move on to the women's 170 title.
Brittany Elkin versus Jillian Peterson.
Yep.
Brittany Elkin, Big Bird, fucking smashed.
Yeah. She passes
good
and goes to mount and just takes her back, and
it was really just like
armbar.
Brittany imposing from top position, and you saw, like, I was just impressed with. We've watched Brittany sort of. I think this is not disparaging. Like, get slower in how she grapples. Like, she is a much more grindy style. When she was the 170 champion in Fight to Win as a brown belt. Like, she had an imposing style, but she would kind of move and roll and like work, and like eventually she would like look for the sub and work for you.
And it was probably, and it might have also been. As she goes up in skill level, you're also going against more skilled opponents. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you slow down because I wouldn't say you're fearful that something will happen, but you're more apprehensive of what can come after.
Control. But to watch Brittany's like game over the past like 5 years change from like her brown belt title fight, reign on Fight to Win, getting her black belt, and then in here of just like the pace has become like controlling, and not slower, but just like the entire time.
No, she controlled this entire match.
She was on top. She turned. Jillian was like in an attempt to kind of get her off top control.
Yeah.
Turned over. Brittany rolled the hips and like forced Jillian to slowly turn to the back. Got the back. Almost gets the back. Then turns back over to almost what was like a modified topside Americana Kimura kind of combo with the arm, to then throwing in the triangle. And then the arm.
Yeah.
Like just the most controlling performance that we have seen from Brittany, I think, ever on the show in any match that we've covered from her.
Yeah,
just like super impressive. I kind of want to see Brittany at trials again, and just to see how she does, because this like performances like this, we've seen more and more performances like this from Brittany, and then on Subversive and other stuff like this, where I'm excited.
Well, she has a little bit of time.
Yeah, it's cool.
She has time to build herself, and I think she's in a good spot right now with 10th Planet, and I think she's learning a lot, and she's getting around, training a lot, so good.
It's cool. So I'm again happy
and
I
think
see
she's
her as the title.
Is she still doing MMA, or she?
I don't know. She's been a little sporadic in there.
But maybe she's paying more attention to grappling too, which is always does a good thing.
Again, I hope now that she's at 10th Planet, and this is an event at 10th Planet, I hope we continue to see Brittany.
They
frequently.
Made a comment. Yeah, they made a comment about it being hard to find people to go against her.
Yeah, and we
talked
about that.
She is
when we interviewed her.
A larger girl.
Oh yeah.
So to find 170-pound.
Is she cutting to 170?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I've never had that conversation.
I mean, she towers over me.
She's tall. Like when when we take pictures together, she's like a good head above me.
Oh yeah.
At least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're on the other end of that bell curve.
And I've rolled with her before, and it's madness. I rolled with her at Marcelo's, not knowing who she was, and it was something.
So yeah, super excited to have her as the title again. Now that she's at 10th Planet, would love to see her. I would love, honestly, if they have 5 title fights on this card, I would love to have all the local people every time. Like, hey man, 5 of the super fights are title defenses, or 6 of the super fights are title defenses. I love that Finishers does it that way.
Yeah.
So super cool. Great performance from Elkin here. Moving on to the 105-pound title fight, we had Faye Charrier versus Teresa Calloway. Teresa gets an armbar in overtime. Again, this is sort of similar to the men's 170-pound title match between Ricky and Dylan.
Yeah.
Very much sort of not playing to the overtime, but very happy to seem to sort of like let the match sort of go where it's going in regulation.
Yeah.
And then, the overtime is a part of that rule set in the match, so you're going to play towards that. Is sort of what it seemed like. We had a couple minutes on the feet, and then a little bit of guard work and regulation, but not a ton of forward commitment either from the bottom or top here. And then
maybe a way to fix that would be maybe monetize a submission in regulation.
I just don't. We've tried that before with EBI, and I think the problem.
It is. It is.
I think the problem is always when you get 2 athletes, like winning is more important than the money.
Yeah.
Always, and so it's like you have to take the avenue that will most likely guarantee you the win.
Well, I was just thinking of like the things that
I just think
definitely.
you have to do what you do in ADCC, which is or quintet even. You have to have forward progression. Like you have to have both athletes. Hey man, in the guard, you can't step out and play hand fighting from the outside for more than 3.
You mean you got to start doing penalties?
You have to find a way to penalize them, and for and you can penalize them, and then if you have penalties going into the overtime and it's not even penalties, you just lose.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the way you need to do it. But then you're moving into the subjectivity, which is what the EBI rule set specifically was trying to avoid for a lot of the American competitors getting calls against them, 10 years ago. And that's sort of why Eddie was like, hey, man, there's no subjectivity. These are the rules. It's all on you. If you want to stall the whole match, you're allowed to do that. And then you go to overtime, and then it's a time that determines who wins, not necessarily any subjectivity. So with where the rule set comes out of, introducing penalty points would be really hard to do and is not in the spirit of those rules. But I think it would be helpful, especially in title fights, when you maybe want to see a little more from each athlete's game, when it pays so many dividends to play to the overtime.
Yeah.
Tactically, maybe that's what you should be doing. So in regulation, like they have the Mollywop rule now, which I love, which is, if you get dominated in regulation, you don't go to overtime.
Yeah.
Again, it's a great way to deal with someone who just hurdles the whole time or just, is in bottom side control and can't do anything.
Yeah. That's
a great implementation. Maybe having a force to engage more or more aggressively, especially in single title fights.
Yeah.
I would really love to see it, because I think it would push for more subs in regulation, which is what EBI was aiming to do anyway, which is why Eddie only paid out for submissions in regulation.
Yeah.
So it's just a thought. But again, nothing against the strategy here. Teresa takes this by sub in overtime and is now the 105-pound title holder, which is cool. 145-pound title. We had Trinity Pun versus Molly. Can you give me her last name?
I think it's Zabrowski.
Zabrowski. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm reading it. I just knew I was going to butcher it.
She goes to Daniel Gracie in Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty local. Again, both these women are pretty local to us.
Trinity Pun, is she local?
Orange County. She's New Jersey.
Oh, Orange County, New Jersey.
Yeah.
My brain went so because of work. Orange County,
California.
like California, and I'm like, where is that school? Because I've never heard of it before, and I got really confused. But that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope.
I thought she was local. That's why it completely confused me. Okay.
Yeah, the Orange County always throws me off, and I'm like, right, nope, Orange County, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Or New York.
I
think New York.
No, New Jersey, because when I was underage, I had an orange New Jersey driver's license that said I was 21 when I was not 21.
Good to know. I just remember from American Chopper, because they were from Orange County, New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the guy had a big tattoo.
Maybe it was New York, but I think
they might have. They might both have Orange County.
Yeah,
there
was an orange New York.
I only spent a year working in New York, New Jersey, so I should remember this. But regardless,
I have family all over the place over there, so
Trinity Pun, in a couple of minutes, gets pulls guard, takes the guard position, kind of controls Molly. Molly goes to break the guard, stands up. And then Trinity does a great job of almost getting a Russian tie on one side of the arm, where she has the inside of the elbow controlled. Yeah. And then when Molly stands up and kind of shelves, Trinity goes, cool, your elbow is across my center line, and then just swings up for an armbar and gets it. And it was exactly how you teach someone to do that technique.
Yeah.
Like day one. It's like, hey man, this is how you do it.
It was a very technical.
Yeah. And Trinity did a great job of not showing her hand there initially. It was just Molly stood up. Molly was working to open the guard. Trinity controlled the hand. Didn't make a big effort she was going for the armbar.
She also had a triangle. She was in full guard, but she was in a triangle. And I didn't pay attention. I should have, as I now think about it, how she unlocks her triangle. If she unlocks her triangle and then swings forward, or if she gives some time between the triangle.
I think it was a lock up and then a swing over.
Okay.
Is what I remember it being. I remember being pretty quick to the armbar. There wasn't a whole lot of protracted control battle there.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. Again, why it's this is how you teach to do this technique.
Yeah.
And I think Trinity did.
And I mean, it was in the air. It wasn't like she was on the ground at all.
But that's why, because
she was holding her entire body in the air.
That's why it was really cool for me to kind of watch the sub get set up, because you didn't see Trinity do a bunch of work to trouble Molly, but she was going for the arm. So there wasn't that defensive reaction from Molly initially, because Trinity kind of just had the arm and then unlocked it in one motion.
Yeah, it was just swinging to it, as opposed to stretching her out and all
pulling
that.
through where
Yeah.
you're going to get the defensive reaction to pull back and get the hips under, and
Yeah.
like all of that secondary defense just wasn't there.
And in all
because
honesty,
Trinity could get
I
there.
expected more of a sweep. I expected her to stand up, her to sweep her and
Yeah.
come up. Like that.
But it was
that's
great
where I would have went.
because
but-
she had that arm control. She just take that. And so, again, really impressive performance from Pun here. Trinity Pun, 145-pound champion.
Yeah.
Would love to see her back. Moving on to the heavyweight fight, Pat Shahgholi takes on Steve. I always muck up Steve's last name.
Shahgholi.
What did I say?
I don't know. You didn't say anything. I said Shahgholi.
Well, Steve's last name.
Oh,
Steve,
shit.
Yeah.
Sorry. My bad.
Just zoned out there for a second.
I went to the wrong last name.
Pat Shahgholi versus Steve
Joachim.
Joachim. I always want to pronounce
And
it
I don't
the
know if
French
that's
way.
correct either because they on the commentary they said it like 3 different ways and then they said we don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah, Joachim. We've only covered it.
I think it's Jacques.
Only
I think
covered
it's
him locally for
Joachim, but
years.
I've never met him. He went
I
against.
talked to Jay today about it. Jay was cornering him and coach. I could have just asked Jay.
You should have.
I should have.
You should have.
I forgot. My bad, Jay.
He went against one of our locals like at a tournament in my old school in my old gym.
He's been there. He's been
Method.
around for a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And we've covered him on a bunch. He's
I
giant.
think it's Joachim.
Was
You think he's giant until he goes beside Pat Shahgholi, then you realize he's not giant. He's actually a weight class lower.
So this is interesting. So we've now seen Pat on. So Pat wins this by ride time, like 16 seconds of ride time after
16
3
seconds.
overtimes. It was very close. We've now seen Pat on like a national stage, on like the big EBIs and like, people now. We've known about Pat for a lot of years. He's a young, I think he's 16, 17, something like that.
Yeah,
We've known about him as like this young kid that was like he was adult slaying people.
Yeah.
And now we've seen him on the
but
big
I don't
stage.
know how long he was actually doing that for.
A couple years, I think. 2 years.
Yeah.
Like we've seen him on Sogi for a long time now.
Yeah. I guess.
So we've
That's
now
true.
seen him on the big stage. There's now footage of him versus those big guys.
Yeah.
And you have like good camps like Nicky Rod and Mason Fowler and guys that kind of like figured Nicky Rod didn't go against him, but you guys that have figured out sort of like, that actually had appropriate game plans going into someone with Shahgholi's skill set.
Yeah.
Now he's going back into towards, to finishers, which is a more regional event for
It
us.
is.
They still
is.
bring in a lot of talent from across the U.S.,
Yeah.
but it's more more East Coast
It is
for the most part.
and it's mostly 10th Planet if you really think about it. The matches where you had people come from far away, like Teresa Calloway was from 10th Planet San Diego.
Yeah.
You had some Atos Atlanta people. That was a little bit different, but normally it's 10th Planet.
Mm-hmm.
The 10th Planet World is who
Yeah.
you
And that's
get
who
those
gets
matches.
showcased the finishers, which is a great showcase for
Yeah.
that club and organization. We've now seen Pat and guys we've seen like, okay, we know Shahgholi has a really, really dangerous like flash sub game.
Yeah.
Like especially for the legs. He also has a good back take game. Steve kind of has now seen that, and more people are more familiar with his game and know, okay, you can't let the guy get to your legs.
Yeah.
So now you have to play an outside game, and Steve went, cool, I have to play an outside game. And Jay Riglabuto is in Steve's corner, has watched Shahgholi for years, has commentated a bunch of his matches, and knows, like, that's where Pat's going to be most dangerous. Yeah. You prepare Steve to come in and go, okay, Pat's going to be really dangerous. You have to limit to his legs. You can't standing pass over him because he's going to invert. He's a bigger dude, but he is pretty quick with the inversions, and he's very dexterous with his legs.
Yeah.
So you have to play it like what Nicky Rod does, Nicky Rod did a couple of years ago, that outside passing style where you're pushing his legs down and turning over. And you look what Mason Fowler had success with versus Pat, like outside passing to north-south. And you saw Steve kind of trying to do a similar thing.
Yeah.
I'm very curious what we will continue to see developments from Pat on now that more and more people are probably going to start implementing what they've seen, like Fowler and not Bame. I forget who he went against in the EBI.
It was
Fowler
went against him.
It was Fowler. No, he also in the first one though he went against Roosevelt. Right?
Yeah.
No. We saw him like 2 EBIs back to back. But starting implementing the things that were successful, either getting Pat to regulation or like an outside passing game and really heavy pressure maintenance on top. He's very young. He's going to make improvements in his game. This match was interesting because we saw him wrestle up a couple of times at Steve.
Yeah.
I think 2 times he was successful in sort of getting him controlled, and then once almost goes to the back.
He wrestled up I don't know if I would consider that control.
Well, once he gets the back, and then once Steve kind of tries to tech out, and he jumps to Steve's back.
Yeah, because Joachim did. Well, I mean, he does get Joachim's back.
Yeah,
but he does what wrestlers are taught to do, which is put their hands down and put their butt up in the air to kind of, because that's what,
And most of the time, the heavyweight will fall off the top there and take the back. Pat does a good job of not getting bumped off the top there, but as soon as Joachim rolls, Pat tries to get over top of him, and Pat in that transition is not super quick. Yeah. And so Joachim can get his hands underneath Pat's hips, push and buck, and then reset to neutral.
It's also not very lanky, so it's not like he can hold as well as some of the other people.
And then we saw later in the match that wrestle up, I think the second or third time, we saw Joachim do a better job of turning towards Pat and just extending and pushing away and preventing any sort of locking. And so we saw Joachim sort of throughout the match start to figure out how to prevent the first stage of Pat's offense in those areas for either the wrestle up or for the leg locks to prevent the inversion and the wrestle up. I'm curious to see what we're going to see Pat continue to develop to deal with guys now that there is more footage of him. Yeah, it is going to be interesting.
And as he gets more, where he does more matches on the pro stage, it's going to get harder. He's going to
people
get
that are game planning,
and he's a big boy, so he's going to have to go against the larger.
So have to go against the heavyweights.
Yeah.
And the heavyweights, that have those weird sliders that are all to one side or the other. Yeah. But it'll be interesting. So, but again, he takes it. He shows off doing what he needs to do, preventing Steve from being able to get around the guard. A couple of entries that kept Steve on the outside for the legs. Goes to regulation. Regulation was extremely, again, 16 seconds across 3 rounds is less than less than 6 seconds around difference.
It was definitely not. It was not a lot of time.
No, it was very close. Again, Pat
retains
or
even
keeps.
Even all 3 rounds, they both got out pretty fast. Both all the time.
It was one where Pat from the guard was able to spin through a sub and keep that. That was, I think, what the saving time was.
Yeah, I think that was the first one.
I think
because I wrote them all. I wrote them all down because I was trying to figure out the math.
Yeah, because I was curious I was curious how close it was time-wise, and you did the math.
Yeah,
and you were 16 seconds.
Yeah, that's how much time is left.
Yeah,
because it's 2 minutes on each round.
Yep,
and that was what was left every single time.
So it was, again, interesting. I'm very curious to. I'm now that Pat's on the stage, and is a very polarizing dude. I am very curious to see how he continues to develop, because we very rarely get to see someone kind of develop in real time like this. It's neat for us.
Yeah, we get Micah Galval.
Yeah,
we
do get it, but I can pick and choose a couple of people we've seen do it.
We see some people grow up in front of us.
Cole Abate is another guy we're watching. Galval, Cade, we're seeing the younger grapplers come in now. Pat's just now very young. We don't see very many very young heavyweights come in. It'll be interesting to watch a very young heavyweight come in.
Older man.
Yeah.
Division.
Majority of divisions are above 35. Yeah. Or mid 30s, just not uncommon.
Never thought about that.
So
except then you have Big Dan.
Yeah, but
Big Dan's young.
I make them like trees, dog.
Yeah.
So
who's Big Dan? Big Dan has a match against Grapple Fest put on.
Ooh.
It's Big Dan versus some other big dude.
Oh, I saw that.
And they just announced it.
Oh,
and I forget.
I got excited about that.
I forget who the other big dude was, but
so that does it. I mean, I don't have anything else for finishers. That was the main event for finishers. Yep. Pat has the title. Again, I would love to see him back. He's New York based. Bethlehem, PA is not that far from New York. I would love to see finishers continue to run through and title fight, a couple of super fights. I like how these cards are structured. We have your undercard fights, your local competitors, and that are coming in. You have your tournament, and then you have your title fights.
Well, but they didn't do it like that. They did the tournament, and then they did the undercard fights, and they did the finals for the tournament, and then they did their title fights.
I mean, the organization is different, but I just like that that organization showcases that breadth of talent.
Yeah.
So, and especially local DOS. So that does anything. Any kind of closing thoughts on finishers?
No, that was it.
Yep. So let's move on to the preview for IBJJF European Championships. Usually I look for these beforehand. This show, I just wanted to go in gut. We have men's and women's registrations for this. I just want to go through the big names that we do have, unless you have a different way. We don't have brackets yet right now.
This This is about what we got.
Mm-hmm.
So
Rooster, you gonna do it or me do it?
Yeah, we start at adult male rooster. Are we just gonna run through names, or are we gonna
just
out?
Go through the big names, like big names you recognize. We have a division of 5. Tadai Danifert, a local guy to us, is in here. We also have Welson Goncalves is also in this as well. For who I recognize, I always hate doing the IBJJF names because it's always the full name.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't know the full name.
And you always forget, like, who is that? Oh, that's Baraka.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, that's his actual name. We have male lightweight. We have Yuta Shimada.
Yeah.
We cover we you and me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
us.
commentated his match at Copa Virginia.
Yeah, he was just randomly in town and was like, "Hey, I'm going to do this tournament."
And then there was like, "Want to be in the cash prize division?" And he was like, "I'll do it."
He's like, "I haven't done nogi in a long time."
He hasn't done nogi since ADCC, like 2017 or something. He won Asian trial at ADCC and like didn't do a nogi match until that day.
Yeah.
And then came back. So,
but he did a great performance.
Yeah. We have Pablo Montavani. We have Tomoyuki Hashimoto here as well. We have Diego Oliveira from Dream Art. Ooh, this is a fun division. Let's see. And we have Malachi Edmond, a guy local to us. So this should be a wild division.
Yeah, that is a wild division when you think about it.
We have in the men's male featherweight division, we got 18 people.
We got Sam McNally.
We have this is always fun. We have Andreso Sodre in here as well. We have, let's see, Diego Panero.
Fabricio Andre.
Shane
wow,
Jamil
he has
Hill
a lot
Taylor.
Longer name than I thought he did.
Fabricio Andre Batista Jr.
I did not know that.
Shane Jamil Hill Taylor, former world champion, is in here. And then Mateus Rodriguez de Lima is also in here. Then in the men's lightweight division, we have Andy Murasaki. Good luck getting past Murasaki. I think he has a Euro title before.
He's doing a seminar around here somewhere.
Is he really?
Somewhere in Virginia. I saw it recently, and I was like, I might have to do that.
Yeah, he's really cool. We have Max Lindbad as well. Check my international. We have Vitor Oliveira is here. We have Mirman Alves from Dream Art as well. That'll be fun. I would not be surprised to see Mirman and Murasaki in close to the finals. We have Vinicius Pereira here. Let's see. We also have Marcio Andre is in this division. And those are the names that I recognize.
Stop for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, that's not him.
They forget all the Portuguese names.
I'm like trying to read. I'm trying to remember Portuguese names, and they're not. Mm-hmm. They're not.
I wish they would just have a. I wish they just had in the registration like name you go by, so we're not getting like the full first, middle, last name. We just get
you don't get the. You're not getting the what do they call it?
The common name.
Yeah, the common name.
You're not getting like you're getting the scientific beetle name versus just like the guy's name he goes by. So, adult middleweight division, total of 15. We have Tynan Dalpra from AOJ. Good luck, everyone not named Tynan Dalpra. Yeah. We have Lucas Andre Gaval Paterizo. I butchered that last name. I can never.
But you rolled it, so
I rolled it good, but it's not. It's not rolled. It's not supposed to be pronounced like that. We have Espen Thiessen. Oh yes, we have all the European guys. We have Bradley Hill in here. This will be fun. Bradley Hill and the Gi. It's always fun to see. And that is who I recognize. Italo Morero, Alvarado from Unity is also in this division as well.
That's who I was going to say.
We have medium heavy division, a division of 19. We have, let's see.
Pedro Henrique Pinheiro.
Oh, yeah, from Atos.
Yeah.
Is in here as well. We have Jason Gomez from Checkmat.
Francisco Lowe.
From Cicero Costa. We have, I thought it was Wellington Diaz. I was like, again? Mackenzie's dead? No, we don't. Terep Hopstock.
I think he's doing it, but I don't think he's doing.
He's probably doing like Master 7.
Yeah, he's doing like some Master.
Which I love. Like Megaton, you get out there and do it.
He did Nogi Worlds. I saw him there.
Sweet. Did he really?
Yeah.
He did.
I remember his positive. I didn't see his match, but I definitely saw him, and then I definitely saw her walk around and a bunch of cops hitting on her. It was hilarious to watch.
Good for them. And then we have Yep. We have Clay Landon Mayfield as well from Pedigo.
Yeah.
And Son Coates from Guerribada.
It takes me a second to figure out who people are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the full names, because they don't have just a standard pronunciation name.
Well, because you don't know people's full names.
Mm-hmm.
Adult male heavy.
Division of 13. We have Gabriel Henrique Oliveira.
We have Felipe Leandro.
Dude, he
Silva.
won a couple years ago, so it wouldn't surprise me to do it again. Adam Wardzinski from Checkmat.
Yeah.
Love seeing him in the European events because he's all comfy. We have Ryder Zucchi, who I think is actually how you pronounce his name. We also have Lucas Andrade.
Devontae Johnson.
I just watched a match with him and Gordon. Back when they were like purple belts.
I saw an interview of him like from back in the day. I was watching these like old ass jiu-jitsu documentaries and he was on it. He had glasses and he looked like a kid and he was like talking about unity and it was hilarious.
I interviewed him back in probably 17 or 18 when he did a Fight to Win up here.
Yeah.
And he's a brown belt back then.
They do when my leg is feeling better, I'm going to steal your wife because at his
Devontae's or Unity?
Devontae's school, right? He has his own school.
He has his own school now.
Yes, okay. He has his own school. They do a women's open mat.
Oh, really?
On like Sundays or Saturdays. Sometime during the weekend they do it.
Well, there are more and more of those coming up now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Give or take.
But yeah. I have my views, but I'm also a woman, so I can have those views. Anyway, we're going to move on to
men's super heavyweight division of 9. Again, that bell curve. We got Kainan Duarte.
Yep.
Again, like I said before,
I'm sorry for everybody.
Good luck everyone else. And then we have Thomas Bratcher. We have Eric Bergman as well in this division. Vinicius Liberali from Cesar Acosta. But dude, good luck. Good luck if your name isn't kind of.
I wonder if they're going to say Alliance again.
Alliance. Yeah, it's like
they were saying
Alliance.
That's
Alliance
what
is what they say.
That's
it's like,
what,
hey man,
they were saying that at Worlds, and I was so confused because I couldn't figure out what
Alliance. I was like, alliance? Like, that's an English word, bro. We can pronounce it the other way, but we're speaking English.
Okay.
Ultra heavyweight division of 14. Mason Fowler.
Yeah.
Has he done Euros before as a black belt?
I don't know. I don't remember him in the gi, but I admit that my gi is. He
does the gi more. I think he's one of the few guys that we always kind of see as a no-gi guy.
He's Kyotera, so it's not like he doesn't.
He's dope in the gi too. He won Brown Belt Worlds.
Okay,
I mean, he's a monster.
He's a monster anyway.
He's a monster, but he's a monster also in the gi. Yeah. And we all kind of forget. He's also super young. He's like early 20s.
Really?
Yeah. He's like
I always think
early
he's
20s.
Like 30s.
So do I.
I don't know why, but I see him as an older dude.
He's like Leandro Lowe. Rest in peace. But I always thought he was like 40.
Leandro Lowe does look like.
But he was like early 30s.
Yeah.
And so Mason's I think mid 20s.
Oh. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. We have let's see. Luis Costa is also in here. Igor Silva's in here. We have, let's see, those are the big names that I recognize.
Yep.
And then Roosterweight division for the women, division of 7. We have Jessica Khan. We have Thales Serrano, Felipe. We have Julia Gomez and Jessica Dantas. In the light featherweight division of 6. These are big divisions for women's. That's awesome. We have Maisa Bastos from Unity, Raquel Ferreira de Silva from ZR Team, and then Rose Marie El Chamori from Checkmat. Those are offhand who I recognize. We also have a woman from Miriam Galval.
Yeah, which is a new
Michael Gaval's camp.
Yeah, which is a new school.
Oh, Brenna Larissa. Jesus, I can't believe I missed her name.
Okay.
Yeah, Brenna Larissa's from there. She's in this division.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. I hope we see her and Maisa match up. That would be very fun to see that matchup. Featherweight division of 7. We have Sophia Marie Dalpra from Art of Jiu-Jitsu. We have
Ashley Bendel.
Oh yeah, Ashley Bendel from Drag.
I saw her. I was watching her matches at New Worlds because they were like in front of me. You have Anna Cristina Rodriguez.
Yep, from Dream Art.
Yeah.
And then Andrea Calvacante from ZR Team. Lightweight.
Go up real quick.
Yep.
Oh, Morgan Hung. So Morgan Hung at Logic.
Mm-hmm.
She's from Philly.
Oh yeah, okay.
She just married. Yeah, she just married she married the black belt guy whose last name is Hong. I forget his first name. He's the photographer that is at IBJJF all the time. Yeah. That's her husband. They just got married like either a year or two. So I didn't recognize her last name until I saw Logic, and I was like, oh, that's her.
That's her now.
I've rolled with her a few times.
That's always the most confusing is when the women's last names change, and you're like, oh, formerly now it's this, because especially we've covered them for years as the former name.
Morgan's cool. I like Morgan. I've rolled with her a bunch of times.
She wins then. Moving on to the female lightweight division, we have Luisa Montero. We have Natalie Hebero in this. We have Maria Claudia Almeida in this. We have, those are the names that I recognize offhand for that division. Middleweight, division of 9, Elizabeth Clay, Aries BJJ.
Yeah.
It's funny, it's organized by the team name, not by the athlete name.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I think is partially what's throwing me off here. Magdalena Losca is also from Brasa. We have Raquel Canudo, Vanessa Griffith, Thalita Lima. That's not Be a Mosquito.
No.
And then we got not Be a Mosquito as well. Medium heavyweight division of 4, Maria Maliasic, Amy Scott Campo. Those are the two heavy hitters in the division. Oh, we also have Sabitha Lathi in this division as well. So that will be a fun division. I think we're probably going to get Maliasic and Campo in the finals there.
Yeah, unless they put them on the same side of the bracket.
Which they could do, or they could round robin it, or pick what they do for the smaller division.
It's a 4,
sometimes.
so it's not that bad.
Women's heavyweight division of 4, Elizabeth Mitrovic is in here. A staple of that division. Amanda Magda is also in this division as well, and Leticia Carvalho in this division as well. Rounding it out, we have Arana, I can never get her last name, Cuiba. Female super heavyweight division. We have a division of 3.
We have Gabby Pisana.
And then Claire France is also in this division. So look for those two to probably look for Gabby to probably take that, as she typically does for Euros. So that is European Championships. Should be fun. Yeah. Zach's going to be in as per tradition.
Yeah.
I think that's like the only show every year that is like the same hosting combo. Well, which is like me and Zach for Euros.
It should stay with you and Zach because my understanding of gi, I'm still learning gi.
I love how deep in no gi you're. Like you're primarily.
Yeah, I'm.
I think on the team you are the person that probably specializes into no gi the most.
Yeah,
as far as like viewership.
Bizarre shit because right now what am I trying to do? Get better in gi.
Yeah.
So. Gonna try to learn some gi.
It is very funny because I'm like,
I actually have a better gi game than I have a no gi game. As weird as that sounds,
my no gi game is easily 30% better than my gi game.
My gi game is so much better, but I just hate it.
Oh no, I'm easily competitively. I just get to win.
I play a completely different game in gi.
My game is like 90% the same in the gi. I'm just like, I have this grip now. It is very, very similar. That's why I'm trying to round out my game more.
Yeah.
I'm probably training it. Probably the past year and a half. I've been, maybe more than that. I've been training more gi.
In all honesty, it's not like your coaches are going to give that much care about it.
I care.
They're no-gi people.
I care, though. And so I want to be better in gi and stuff. So I've kind of put
That's why you need to do Master Worlds. With me and your wife.
Then I got to register.
Your wife is going to do it too.
She is going to. I'm going to go. Look, I'll go to Vegas. I'll have a great time. I'll support you guys. I'll cheer from the stands. I'll coach. We'll have a great time. Yeah. I don't need to go spend $400 to go register and this and that and that.
It's not $400. It's going to be like $200.
It's like $250.
It's like $250, and then
and I could
your $39 a year for a membership
to prove that I am the belt that I am. That's like it's so disrespectful.
I know. I need to get my papers done.
I cannot wait until ADCC stomps through North America and then runs a ton of events, and everyone goes, "Yeah, I'm just going to do ADCC." That doesn't care what belt I am.
Yeah,
they're just like, "Oh, you're not a beginner? Cool, go fight everyone."
Yeah, and they don't care how you register. You can register.
Yeah, we got
you want to.
We got emails this week about. Because we're refs refs and judges for ADCC.
Yeah.
We got emails as they build out their roster of people.
Hey, can you do this?
Hey, do you want to potentially do more of these?
Sure, why not?
And I was like, I've done it before. I'll definitely do it again. So I'm looking forward. I would love to judge a couple more ADCC opens this year. I think because they're talking about running a bunch of them throughout the country.
That's what I've heard.
And we're hearing that there's going to be a lot of them.
Yeah, I haven't seen them actually release And, you have to think about it. They're probably going to do them, in California, Texas?
I think they're doing them West Coast first. They're starting there.
Yeah.
And then they're going to come over, which is what we've heard.
I would say Texas.
Which we heard that from Mo.
Yeah.
And so it would be cool. It can be given an excuse to fly out there. And then East Coast stuff is much easier for us.
Yeah.
It would be, it's just, I like the rules. I like how they run.
Yeah.
I like that they seem to respect the athletes.
I like the fact they have a Masters division.
They have a Masters
and it's
division.
35 and up. So it's not like 30.
Hey, don't talk shit
Just
about my
saying.
30s Masters division. I'm very happy to not compete against
Dude,
18-year-olds.
I'm 40, man.
Yeah.
Like, I am a master at this point.
Spine surgery. Put me with the old people, please.
Dude, I probably
I'm
have
ready.
a lot of shit going on that I don't know about, so.
So that'll be good. So I'm looking forward to that. We've got the emails, and we're patiently waiting for announcements for when we're going to get East Coast Open events. Because I will absolutely, if I'm not judging an Open for ADCC, I want to go and compete in that rule set because, again, all the matches I've judged for them, like at the U.S. Open in Vegas, like it was great. Those things moved. They were entertaining. They were exciting. And it forces the
other
athletes
thing
to just,
was
like,
it
go
was
for it.
it was also on time, which is one of the reasons I liked IBJJF. I liked them for two specific reasons, which is they have the Masters divisions, which means I don't have to go against a 17-year-old, and it's on time, and that's the two things I've always liked. And ADCC does both of those, and then it also does a really great skill set. Skill set, but rule set.
It showcases. You have to showcase a really interesting skill set in grappling, and so I appreciate and like that. I'm wearing the ADCC hoodie.
Yeah.
So it'll be cool to do that.
Yeah.
I think honestly, if there's more of them, I think we're going to continue to see what like B Team and New Wave and a bunch of other gyms have sort of started to do, and like full year. You're training that rule set, and we're going to see. I think in the next year, we are going to see a shift and see more and more gyms go that route. Especially if ADCC for their opens have a paid division.
Yeah,
that you can enter, and it's like selection, like they had for the Open in Vegas.
Yeah, but that was absolute, wasn't it?
It was absolute, but it was still, if you had a great match, you got selected to go.
Yeah,
into the
Brittany
absolute.
tried to grab me to go into absolute after my matches. I was like, hell no, not doing that.
Yeah,
I ran away.
But I love that. I think,
but it's also because I was just done for the day.
Again, you pay your registration fee, and then you have the opportunity to go put on a great performance and get into a paid bracket at every Open.
Yeah,
I think stuff like that is what gets your guys that are competing on that like pro, semi-pro, outside local level to go, well, I mean, I'm going to go compete anyway. If there's an option to prepare for an event that doesn't pay you and you get a belt maybe, or for an ADCC that has kind of, you have trials, you have world championships, you have almost a career trajectory and path, and like, hey, maybe I do 6 Opens this year, I win a cash prize at one of them, and then I can be prepared for trials because now I've had 4 different events that I prepared for trials.
True.
I go into East Coast trials and I'm ready for it. I've already won a cash prize division. You're seeing people not just get to compete in the ADCC rule set one time a year, 2 times a year.
It would be good also if that also started a ranking system so that when you did trials, it was a ranked trials.
That would be cool. I kind of like the clusterfuck open trials, but I think.
I do like the clusterfuck open trials, but at the same time, if they ranked it, it might be a little.
I think it would make a lot of sense. Like, hey man, you have 70 points.
Yeah.
We're gonna put you on this side of the bracket. The other guy has 70. We're gonna put him on the other side of the bracket. You're going against guys in your first round that have 0 points. Your top seed should go against your lowest seed in brackets like that in trials. I think that would be, and also it would give you a reason to go and do the opens, but not like IBJJF where you're mandated as a black belt to have to go get points.
Yeah, to have so many points.
It gives you the opportunity to go, hey man, if you want to do 18 events for ADCC this year for opens and accrue a bunch of points, you might be the number 1 slot at trials like that. It builds a league out for this amateur sport that we do that I appreciate and I'm getting excited about.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
So I got anything else? You got anything fun planned this week?
I am supposed to do a seminar with Dante Leone at 50/50 on Saturday.
I was gonna
no
do
idea.
that, but I had something else come up.
I have no idea what he's going to teach,
and I'm debating canceling the other thing I have to go and like.
I do need a partner.
I'm debating.
So if you decide to go, I'll drive.
We will talk. We will talk after the podcast.
So I'm gonna do.
Dante's cool. Like I've interviewed him. I think twice.
I just like as long as he's not doing freaking Z-locks, we're good. If he does Z-locks, I'll be like, oh, I'm out.
I'm like, all right, man, we're doing this to you a lot.
It's a hammy, but it's. I guess I could do the other side, but then that's like the bad.
Your partner's only doing your one side.
Yeah, I'm like, sorry, he can't do that side.
Dante wouldn't surprise me. I think I don't know. There's not a thing I think Dante would teach that would be bad for your game.
No.
That dude wins medals.
No, and I've watched his game enough because he's that size that
I've been
I normally
watching
watch.
his game since he was a purple belt.
Yeah,
I realize that now.
And he's dynamic. He has a top game. He has a bottom game. He has a crazy ass like scramble game.
He can wrestle.
Yeah, and he can wrestle.
Which we all know. Medal at ADCC and
I love
win
my
IBJJF
wrestlers,
Worlds without having the ability to do all of it there. So he's got a cool game. And I remember watching him before we did the podcast. He was one of those fringe guys that we were like, oh, he's going to be a guy.
And he's Canadian, which I always forget about.
Yeah,
Canadians.
There's a
nice
lot
people.
of Canadian talent. Like there's a surprising amount of Canadian talent.
Speaking of Canadian, the one purple belt, or not purple, brown belt that's been a brown belt for a really long time, just got his black belt. Canadian, Leclerc.
Oh, Pierre-Levé Leclerc.
Yeah, he got his black belt
yeah.
like sometime this week. I
Congratulations,
remember seeing
Pierre.
that.
Yeah, Pierre.
I was thinking about
again another guy I've been watching since like blue purple belt.
Yeah.
One of the and I love Pierre-Levé Leclerc because he is one of the few guys that's pushing like French instruction. He has a whole platform for French instructionals for grappling, and so I love guys that are like pioneers in their space. And so Pierre's been a guy. He's put out great stuff for years and years, and been fun to watch for years.
Faraz gave him his black belt.
Yeah. I think Faraz gave him all his belts. He's been.
I think so.
At least I think purple brown were Faraz. I think they were Faraz Sahabi from TriStar.
Yeah. I think he's been there the whole time.
But he's popped around a lot. We've covered him for years and years. But it's cool. I didn't know that. So
I
that's awesome.
Remember that.
Congrats to him.
This is my weird brain that sometimes remembers shit when I'm supposed to.
I love that he's a pioneer in that space because he's I think Quebecois.
Yeah.
So he is.
Him and
Brianne St. Marie, and she's put out some instructionals on his platform as well, but he is running with a joint venture with someone else, I think, a French-based instructional platform for grappling to grow grappling in that space. And I really appreciate that. Again, like, hey, man, like, you're bilingual and you have a underserved group of folks that are looking for instructionals in different languages, like the U.S.
Yeah.
You know, how many back in the day like Marcelo instructionals did you listen to that were voiced over by like a narrator?
The Marcelo ones I've watched were not voiced over, but he had an accent that you had to learn. I have
an old school one from him. I have an old school one from Shaolin. I have an old school one from one of the Estemas. And they're dubbed. But they're dubbed in like a really funny way where it's like you said the guy and you can hear it's a guy at his computer that's just like and just like kind of talking through like no emotion, no like the sentence structure is all different. He's like just saying what they said. It's old school like 90s dubbing.
It's probably VHS style too. So
yeah, well they were VHS tapes back, so early DVDs. So again, congrats to him in that space. We're this is the outro. This is what we do in the outro.
Yeah.
I have nothing else.
We just ramble on
really.
about shit.
I'm healing up some injuries. I'm making a better effort to do some recovery, which has been great, and I have nothing else going on, which is awesome for me. I'm very happy to just be resting and chilling, kind of taking care of my body a little bit.
Yeah.
Before I move into comp season, which I think I'm going to compete a bunch this year.
Okay.
And I got to get my body. I'm trying to get the beginning of the year to get my body healed so that I can go into camps and then break it up again.
April, I think I'm going to start locals again.
I'm thinking like March, February, March. I'm thinking we're coming up soon. So.
Okay, good.
I'm looking forward to it.
We'll see what happens.
All right. So as always in the show, I'm your host Maine, my co-host
Miranda,
and we got the Grappling Run to stay on the mat. Whatever it is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.